What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. This podcast is a audio visual podcast, I guess you could say. Being that I'm hopping on to the show, this is the latest content from Ryan Thomas, yours truly, on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook page as well as YouTube. And on this audio podcast platform, I will be discussing what has been my biggest fear as of late, a thought that creeped into my head and I can't seem to get it out of my head, that I thought, you know what, I'm going to come clean with this big fear that I have for the Buffalo Bills and for the future of the Buffalo Bills. Yes, my biggest fear for the Buffalo Bills heading into the 2022 season. And listen, it's simple. We are still reeling from the aftermath of the 13-second loss at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. It was tough. It was brutal. It was heartbreaking. There's no other way to look at it other than that, right? We should have won that game. And today, I know myself and a lot of Bills fans are looking at this and saying to themselves, we should be here. We should be in this game. It should be us. It shouldn't be the Bengals. Who knows what would have happened had Buffalo been able to get past Kansas City en route to hosting the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC title game. But I would like to think that being that they were hosting or would have been hosting that AFC title game, that we could have come away with a W. And we would have won that game, and we would have been in the Super Bowl against the Rams. And granted, I think the Rams are the best team in football. I think they have one of the best rosters that's been assembled in recent memory. Offensively, they're dangerous. Defensively, they're vicious. And it's an uphill battle for anybody. I just talked about that in the Super Bowl preview show, where I talked about the game and the nitty-gritty of it and how I believe the Rams should win this game tonight in Super Bowl 56. And I really think it's just their time. Their fate was this year to be the champs of the NFL world. So that had to be addressed first and foremost. My biggest fear doesn't have anything to do with the Chiefs' loss. That's in the past. But what my biggest fear is predicated on is the whole saying window of opportunity. You have a window of opportunity to achieve your goal, to reach your goal, and that window of opportunity is ever so small. And it's been the last two seasons. Part of it has been the last two seasons, going to the AFC title game against the Kansas City Chiefs. 1 year later, facing the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC divisional round, losing to the Chiefs 2 seasons in a row, ending your season in the same stadium, Arrowhead, 2 years in a row. Now you know that, hey, this 4-year window, that I like to call it a 4-year window, is now half over. And I called it a 4-year window 2 years ago, and now that 4-year window to me is half over. Now, a lot of Bills fans will disagree with me on that. They'll say, oh, they have a big window. They got Allen. They do have Allen. But here is where my biggest fear lies. And this is interesting. For 17 years, in my humble opinion, for 17 years, when the Buffalo Bills had this 17-year-long playoff drought, it was largely based upon the fact that they didn't have a quarterback. They went through journeyman. They went through stopgaps. They went through starting quarterbacks who were at the tail end of their career, like Drew Bledsoe. They went through every type of quarterback that they drafted quarterbacks, J.P. Lossman, E.J. Manuel. They thought some mid-round guys would work, like Trent Edwards. Tyrod Taylor comes in. He was okay for a little bit there, but he wasn't really a long-term solution and by any stretch of the imagination. And you draft Josh Allen, and I will say this too. Drafting Josh Allen in 2018, we won't see anything like that in quite some time. I don't, if ever again, where a team takes a quarterback in the top 10 and that quarterback is counted out by everybody but the Buffalo Bills, and really counted on by guys like me who were looking at the 2018 quarterbacks and saying, this guy fits Buffalo. I wasn't necessarily saying he had the best skill out of the quarterbacks, but I thought based on how he could fit here, I thought he'd be a great fit here. And that's why I wanted him here. Wasn't necessarily me saying, oh, he's the best quarterback for the Bills to take. But when I go to what my biggest fear is for this team, it's that they have a quarterback now. They're in the midst of they were in the midst of a 17-year playoff drought without one. And my fear is if the Buffalo Bills do not make those refined additions to the roster, fulfilling roles with role players on the team, there will be some uphill climbing, some uphill sledding with just the fact that the Bills have a quarterback on the roster. I fear that the Bills are a good team, but they're a great team, but they might only be a good team because they might only have Josh Allen when it's all said and done, which is similar to the situation that Russell Wilson is in now in Seattle. I fear that for the Buffalo Bills if, in fact, they do not add to this roster efficiently in 2022 and beyond. I'm Ryan Thomas. It's the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. My biggest fear for the Buffalo Bills heading into 2022 and beyond.